One of the worst nightmares of any YouTuber just happened to me this past weekend, and that is that my family discovered my YouTube channel. And it's doubly uncomfortable and confrontational because my family is vehemently anti-Catholic. So not only is it uncomfortable because they're seeing me talk about things that maybe I don't talk about with them often, or they're seeing me, presenting things in a way that's pretty vulnerable, but also they disagree with everything I'm saying. So the way I found out was I was leaving church, and every Sunday I call my grandparents after church on the way home so that they know that I was a good boy this week and I went to church. And the way my grandpa answered the phone was not as jovial and happy as it normally is. Instead, he was a little bit serious and a little bit somber. And he said, yeah, I turned on my TV, went over to YouTube, and who did I see but you, my grandson? And I thought, oh, great. Now, for a little bit of backstory, they've known that I'm Catholic. My grandma found out probably the week after I got confirmed because somebody saw it on Facebook and told her. And then my grandpa found out as well a little bit later, but he never brought it up to me because I think he's just like in denial about it or so uncomfortable with it that he doesn't even want to talk about it. We've kind of just been doing this dance where we're talking and I'm spending time with them, but we're not really talking about it. And we're just kind of, there's this elephant in the room, but everyone's pretending like they don't see it, And that kind of went out of the window when my grandpa saw my YouTube channel. So he says, I saw this video of you trying to convince somebody to be a Catholic. And I was like, that sounds like a lot of my videos. I don't know. But I think he was referring to the live stream I did with Shayla a while back when we were talking about our differences between Protestants and Catholics. He went into this kind of a rant against the Pope and how the Pope is changing the church's teaching on homosexuality and things like that. And he's saying that everybody goes to heaven and everybody's a good person. And I'm trying to tell him like that's not what this is. That's not what he was saying. He's never said that. But of course, there's only so much you can do in that conversation. And I think the best approach is just to say, hey, I know you're concerned. I understand your concerns. I appreciate that you want what's best for me. But I just need you to know that what you think this is not what it is. The hard thing is that so many Protestants have been told terrible things about the Catholic Church their entire lives. And usually the only exposure Protestants have to Catholicism is what Protestant pastors tell them about Catholicism. So they just have this really negative image of the Catholic Church, and they've heard it their whole life. So they just, it's just fact. And to try to convince them, yes, I'm a Catholic, but no, I don't worship Mary. Or yes, I'm a Catholic, but I don't worship the Pope. They're just not going to accept any of that. So it's a really weird situation, and it's one in which I understand their concern and I appreciate their concern even, because if I had a child or a grandchild who believed something that I thought was going to lead them to hell, I would have the same exact reaction, and I would try to talk to them about it and try to convince them out of it and things like that. But the hard part is just like, yeah, there's so many misconceptions, and all of their concerns are based on things that are just not true. I'm kind of at a loss. I don't know what to do. What really bothers me about it and concerns me about it is that these are my grandparents. I love them very much, obviously, and they are very old. My grandpa just turned 93. My grandma, I believe, is 87 or maybe 88. And I don't know how much time I have left with them. And I don't want to spend that time arguing about Catholicism versus Protestantism. But it seems like every time I talk to them now, that is what it's going to be about. And I don't like that. And I don't know what to do about that. At least when I was a Lutheran, we had disagreements, but we never thought of them as, worthy of division or concern for one another's salvation or anything like that. It was just like, hey, we disagree on baptism, not a big deal. We disagree on the Eucharist, not a big deal. But on this, it's just like such another level that I doubt they're going to drop it anytime soon, or maybe anytime at all. So for the foreseeable future, we will continue to argue about these things, unfortunately, it seems. It also sucks because I'm really excited about this channel. I love the engagement that we've been having on this channel so much, and getting to know everybody has been a lot of fun. I've never imagined that I would have this many subscribers at this time. It's been really exciting, and so obviously I want to share that with people. I want to share that with my family and say, look at this exciting thing that's happening in my life, but I just can't really do that with them. I've been telling them about my YouTube channel and saying that it's very successful, and they'll ask me, well, what do you talk about on there? And I'll say, yeah, I talk about theology and the Bible and evidence for the Bible and, just Christian related stuff. And my grandma wanted to see my channel, so I showed her on her TV, and that's how it ended up in their suggested videos later on. So it was really my fault. But I showed her on the TV, and she was like, let me watch one of your videos. And my grandpa wasn't around, so I was like, okay, like let's try to make this quick. And I tried to find the most innocuous possible video that wasn't overtly super Catholic. But we got these here. So no matter which video it is, it's going to be these here, and it's going to cause a problem. Immediately, she was like, what is that? What is going on there? And I was explaining to her, these are just, we use these in prayer. We don't believe that these statues have any power in themselves, obviously, but, you know, they're beautiful. We use them in prayer to remind us of God and of Jesus, of Mary, of the many saints that inspire us and whose intercession and prayer we seek. And that just didn't sit right with her. She said, well, why do you have those statues? Like, why do you need that? And I was telling her, well, you have the statue of an angel right here. And she was like, yeah, but angels are mentioned in the Bible. I'm like, yeah, well, Jesus is mentioned in the Bible. Mary's mentioned in the Bible. Just by virtue of having the statue doesn't mean you're worshiping the statue. And in fact, God in the Bible commands Moses to build statues of angels. So statues in and of themselves are not idolatrous or sinful. So we just had this back and forth about statues and prayer to saints. And again, it's all of this stuff is built up in a lifetime of hearing negative things about Catholics and how they worship Mary and how they worship saints and these things. You can't counter all that in one conversation. So I kind of just gave up and said, look, I don't worship Mary. I don't worship statues. I don't worship saints. I ask them to pray for me, just as you ask anybody on earth to pray for you. Maybe you don't like that, but it's not worship, and I don't want to fight. So we can agree to disagree and leave it at that. I love you. I appreciate you. We don't need to fight about this. We can just leave it. And that's where it left off. And then obviously they saw my video on their suggested videos, and then that's the rest is history. So there will probably be many more conversations like this in the future. I'm hoping to just not even get started into that and just say, I love you. You're my grandparents. You're my family. I don't want to fight with you about this. Let's just enjoy each other's company and not spend our last time together just arguing all the time. But it's also hard for me to not get in that mode of arguing because, you know, I love this stuff. I love talking about this stuff. So if they start talking to me about, well, where in the Bible does it say to pray to saints? I'm going to be like, okay, well, Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 says we're surrounded by a cloud of witnesses, and I'm going to get into all these things. And that's not healthy either. So I have to fight this urge on my end to defend myself using the scriptures and tradition and logic, because on one hand, I don't want them to be concerned for my salvation, for my soul. So I want to convince them that these things are biblical. But on the other hand, I know they're not going to accept that they're biblical. Otherwise, they would end up being Catholics, and they're not going to end up being Catholics, at least not without some divine intervention from maybe some intercession from Mary might help out. Yeah, so it's a weird situation. So I'm having to fight my own urges to argue and defend myself, and to have them not be concerned for me, and I'm having to balance that with also just wanting to enjoy my grandparents and have a normal relationship with them and not spend the few years we have left together arguing all the time. It's a tough spot, and I'm sure many other Catholic converts have had the same situation. I've heard even more difficult situations where people are married to Protestants who have very negative opinion about Catholics. That's got to be even tougher than what I'm going through here. So I don't mean to play the victim or have a pity party or anything like that, but if you're a Catholic who's had a situation like this, how did you deal with it? And, you know, I know there's probably no easy answer to it, but it'd be interesting to get different perspectives on it. And if you just happen to have any advice, I'd appreciate that. And also, I'd appreciate your prayers. I kind of feel alienated from family who I valued for a long time. You know, I mentioned this in my interview with Cameron Riecker, who you should go check out his channel and watch our interview. I'll leave the link in the description. I mentioned there, like, I love my grandparents. I don't mean to make them sound bad or like they're bad people, because they're great. And without them, I probably would not be a Christian at all right now. It was because of their prayers and their constant pleading with me that Christianity was even an option to me. I was an atheist for a long time. very vehemently anti-religious and specifically anti-Christian. I'm heavily convinced that their prayers for me are a large part of why I converted. And also their involvement in my life from when I was a child are the reason why I was even raised with any idea of what Christianity is. Otherwise, I'd have no clue. I would have never even been in a church, probably. So I do appreciate them greatly. I don't want them to be worried for me. I don't want to argue with them. And I don't want our relationship to be strained. But it seems like I cannot have all of those things, which really hurts. So any advice and prayers would be greatly appreciated. And I didn't mean for this to be like a sad video. So anyways, with that, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hopefully it didn't bum you out too much. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and until I see you next time, God bless.